Corners coming in, giving some advice, giving some refreshment, checking armor, making sure that their fighters are safe and ready to go for the second round. This is the most challenging one-on-one fight in our sport, or these pro fights, these outrance fights. It's always interesting to me to see weapon and shield choice, and we'll see if any of that changes throughout the fight. If a fighter may choose a heavier shield in the beginning and a lighter toward the end. See if we have any updates on that red list scoring. In that yellow list up there, I recognize the tabard of Trent. That looks like it's going to be Trent Weeks and Michael Sloma. Trent in the black and gray, Michael in black over blue. Down in the red list, we're back to round 2 of our first outrance fight of the day. Ground fighting is, I think, much more difficult than fighting standing up. It takes a whole lot more out of you. Looks like both fighters maintained their same weapon and shield choice. Marshall's making sure that the gate is closed. Good knee landing. Another good knee. And another. However, in the first round, those knees led to a takedown. So we'll see if that happens again. I believe I heard an Australian accent coming out of the green and gold corner, which would make a lot of sense. Oh, a clinch at range and a knee that may have landed a little low. Oh, a good buckler punch to the ribs. A great second round in our first outrance fight of the day. Neither fighter taking it to the ground that second.
What do we think of the pro fight so far, everybody?
Continuing on, up top in the yellow list, we have Jonathan McCartney in red with gold shoulders on the right side of your screen. And he is facing Chris Sanner, I believe. Jonathan taking an arm, Chris taking a body. Both trading those upper arm shots. Jonathan with a series of arm shots. And another. And that ends that first round for those two, I believe. Judges are taking a look at the score, and the marshals are conferring together down in the red list. See if this is going to be going to 3. The break in between rounds is intended to give the fighters just a little bit of time to catch their breath, get a little coaching, and have their armor and weapons checked by their corner to make sure they're still in good working order. But sometimes that break goes a little long when scores are being counted. Up top, we have Jonathan and Chris picking up their second round. A fast exchange between these two very quick fighters. Jonathan getting a little tied up there, but returning with some solid arm shots. Good body shot. Chris returning with some arm shots. And for those of you that may be new to the sport, just as a reminder, these are steel weapons. While they are not sharpened, they are still real steel material. They are not foam. They're not cored in any way. They are tempered steel and are consumable, unfortunately. So they can get kind of expensive. The armor as well is metal. Any of you tabletop role-playing game fans out there, you may have heard of things called studded mail. That studded mail is actually plates that are studded or riveted to the inside of the material that you see outward. For instance, Jonathan McCartney over there, he's got red studded mail for the tabletop side of things, but it's because those studs are rivets holding on plates underneath it. Just as effective at stopping impacts. On the red list, the fighters have their helmets back on. Being called to this. Well, it looks like they're calling a winner. The marshal did not say a name for the winner, but it is the Australian fighter, I believe. The outrance fight's always hard competition. That first round had so much ground fighting in it. I think both competitors decided to keep it on the feet after that. Taking a look at the yellow list, Jonathan McCartney wins and advances in the men's longsword tournament. While we've got a little bit of a lull in the fighting, I'm going to take a very short break and talk with Tech. We may be getting another announcer in here to help out in just a moment. I think we've got both mics going, but he wanted to change the camera angle, so let me see what he's got. Yeah.
So that microphone is now feeding. That microphone is now feeding. YouTube. So we're just going to put both microphones together. You two sit next to each other. I'll widen up the camera, and we're all good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's no separate mic. So that's and is the YouTube feed is up. The YouTube feed is identical. Basically speaking to the same
close do we need to be? Are they picking it up? Like,
I'm looking at that right
Okay,
now.
great.
So I'm trying to figure out.
to make sure that I was having a problem with that in Kansas City. It was like, even though like it was like here it would pick up, here it like just wouldn't neck at all.
Yeah, no, these microphones will pick up more.
Perfect.
But it's not ideal.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Attention fighters. If you are missing a set of baby greaves, you're probably going to want that. Go see the armor. You dropped it. I don't know how you missed it, but it's at the armor. Go talk to him.
There like candy bar machines in here.
There's the concession zone. They're selling some stuff. There's also the food is usually down there.
I think I missed it already. I mean, you're talking about outside?
I thought it was in the past. It's been in that little room. You see the
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. But I think it was like a long time ago.
I think they leave like some non-perishables out.
And I
maybe.
will eat them.
If you find something, don't be afraid to bring an extra. Look, let me tell you, tomorrow there's going to be a box in this back. Might be Debbie cake.
Don't forget, folks, while we're in a little bit of this lull here, they got some vendors up there, and there's an entire axe throwing set up. So you can take some frustration out.
I'm just sure. Like I said, I know there's he finally got say like you're Irish, if you say it's Irish,
You'll get that
charm,
answer.
you can be like, oh yeah, you know who you are. You're going that way. You can like say like British and like go.
Yeah, right.
So,
Like, no, you don't know where you're going.
I think it's like that's the perfect thing. Or like Appalachia.
Oh, yeah.
Appalachia. Yeah, I actually listened to like a whole podcast on the version of Appalachia. Appalachia.
Well, there's a small town not too far that's spelled like everyone knows it's
Right.
but the locals call it Blue.
Yeah, use it if you don't need to know what you're saying.
Yeah, they're gonna know. I mean, shit. That's how we say that.
Well, it was really popular on not chicken explosive. But there's a sign.
Blue and yellow marshals, return to your list. Longsword quarter finals are beginning shortly.
I think I might have been.
I mean, that's just
Yeah.
that's just
That's very.
yeah. I know how you cut it.
Yeah. That's just
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta put it back in there.
That's Danny and Dawsey.
Another pro fight happening in the red list.
Yeah. So look, this is. Yeah. So, this is from the last. So, just 20 minutes ago, they get the clock like that. Yeah, it's about a minute and a half. Okay, well, I'm done with the episode.
Blue marshals,
I'll see the face.
return to your list immediately.
Did they change the rules on how long you can round play?
Exactly why. Rules and regulations. Longsword, polearm, sword shield, sword buckler, outrance. Because I knew that like it was gonna come up. From my understanding. Clinch for 10 seconds, so I'm assuming that's going to apply for the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what we've always done. But I
Yeah.
swear that last round had like 40 seconds.
I mean, shouldn't they be counting in the game?
Theoretically.
Is that they're like re-adding them half the size.
Cool.
I mean, I guess it's like if they're. I guess it depends, right? Are they? Because they wouldn't. Well, did at any point they get up? Because right, that's the thing. Because I always get mixed up with IMCF too early. Once they get up a little bit and they go fall back down, the timer restarts. So
Yeah, they did. Like, I'm not seeing anybody counting, right?
he might be right there. I don't know if he's counting points or she's counting points. I think I got it right. What's his name? If I heard his name right.
Okay. I think that's I really thought that Marshall over there was telling first to stand up.
We're about to begin. There is absolute ground carnage happening in the red mix.
Dude, this has been like 30 seconds.
Yeah, so they've either changed the rule or they're ignoring it. I don't know which it is, but I assume it's a change between Marshall or around. And we don't have any coaches saying,
Yeah. The action is permitted to continue indefinitely. The action is. Let's see. Then they did. Here's the caveat. So, there's clues. So, grounded position, into grounded position, blah, 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 blah. This includes hands, blah, blah, blah. In a grounded position, there may be water bolt fighters. The action is permitted to continue indefinitely, provided that the action is consistent. So, the Night Marshal should stop the fight after 2 seconds of inactivity by using the command break. So, I guess if he doesn't clinch up and grab that shield or something, then that is just going to keep going, keep happening.
I personally think that's a bad idea.
Yes, let's say here. The ground fighter is able to effectively defend themselves. The Night Marshal will give a verbal warning for fighting to defend themselves. That's probably what she was doing, right? The Night Marshal will start a 5-second count. If the fighter continues to be unable to effectively defend themselves, the Night Marshal will stop fighting. So it's not really just a rule, like just objectively once you hit the ground 10 seconds, which seems much more dangerous.
Well, yes, dangerous, but also like standing them up quickly reaction. Now I'm a grappler. I love it. I'm also a striker, but
yes, I agree to an extent. Because it's like, I mean, if you look at like any other like MMA or whatever, that kind of ground and pound is kind of what do you call it? It's kind of exciting for people who know that's exciting, and I think it's also like it can be just as visceral as someone else hammering down right on the ground. I think that can also like that probably actually looks better for the camera than like just kind of strike. If someone's like boom boom headbutt boom boom knee down, yeah. But I see what you're saying.
Out of armor, a grounded fighter still has lots of attacks, specifically because of joint locks.
This is correct.
Other than that, all they have is up kicks.
But you're not doing like there's no like joint manipulation. Like you can still effectively, I mean, you know, right? You can still effectively like defend yourself, and we should probably like be doing this all the time.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, you can grab that shield and you can still probably pop that leg up, or even scissor kick, switch under, grab the heel. Like there's multiple things you could do in armor still that you can transition first.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if like fuck, if you just like have him here and hold him against your chest long enough, or just like grab that tool long enough, and if for 10 seconds you actually are able to get that clinch call where actually then you can do 10 seconds,
Yeah.
right?
And I can see that, but
It probably puts the onus on the down fighter. You know, it puts the onus on the down fighter to like have to continue to do stuff versus like, oh, it's gonna survive for 10 seconds. Like, no, you have to keep fighting back, or else it's gonna be going.
well. No, I love grappling, so
Yeah.
it's not an issue of me not enjoying that aspect of the sport.
But it's all about it.
And I think over time we're going to see that while that may be is the same stuff that was done for professional knights and arms to train.
Shoot, yeah, like, I mean, and then we can talk about the difference of, like, what do you call it? Not counter vector. What's the German, it's this, but it's not Dima. It's
Harness vector?
Harness vector. I can never remember. Yeah, harness vector. Yeah, like, I guess, like, there's also different between, like, this and harness vector. Harness vector I think would be more of that, like, oh, it's kind of like anime style where it is more artistic combat. This is more like brutal combat, like 100%, right? I think you can make the claim that, like, MMA, while it's both, it's like is brutal combat, also like more artistic style of, a mix of martial arts. But like, there's no point where you're like really trying to kill them as much as like submit them in a lot of ways, breaking arms, breaking legs, whatever, right? You can submit. In this, there's no simulation of actually trying to kill them. And, like, hell, I get explains all the time to other people that when you get 50-50 to 30-30s, that's the closest thing you're ever going to get to a battle without actually being in actual combat, right? While actually being in actual combat. So, like, I would 100% agree. I would 100% agree with you.
We'll drop bombs on them a little bit later on.
Get ready to be canceled.
That's right, yeah. Bring it on.
What YouTube guy?
Sensei Seth.
Oh, yeah. That was, those are people from the Warlords getting him in.
Okay.
I guess if I take this off. Okay, I'll keep the... Do you have an extra pen by chance?
I do not, but I'm willing to share mine.
Let's see. I'm just gonna be right here. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Are you gonna be joining? Yeah. So I was helping out with some earlier, and then went back there with me for a bit. And I was gonna start when we started the light pro fights, polearm, gonna get back in that junction. But it's really more expensive right now, so it'll be all. Oh, so you're gonna be deciding on that with the. You want 15? Go. Yeah, it's the same. Like one's going Facebook, one's on YouTube. Yeah, that's not going. It's fine. I mean, when I did the IMCF one in Kansas City, it was like half. It was not this, half of this. Yeah, no, right. So like it was 3 videos, right? That's no problem. Yeah.
Well done, Longsword Fighter!
I'm not going to look down as good. I just like I saw this. Great. Hey, this is great. So this is current life for both those games.
Yes, and I'm gonna try to figure out where I can get like close speed so that I don't have to like change the channel. Have like side by side or on a laptop.
Hey.
Show one.
Yeah, I mean, like, but I also don't hate the fact, and I'm not sure he's specific, but I don't hate the fact that it's like, well, I don't want to be talking about something that they're not seeing, right? So it's like they're seeing, like I don't want to be like looking here and not know which was actually on which board, which was actually live. So I think this is a great idea. Yeah. How long is it running? I saw. I looked at YouTube real quick, and it looked like it was about like 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah.
I can tell. Yeah.
So I think Facebook might be about 10-15 range, and yeah, YouTube's about 45.
Okay. But they're, I guess, the same. And I guess last question is PPD. I know some of the chat mentioned replay.
We'll have replay tomorrow.
Oh, hell yeah.
I might not be able to throw replay up like until we have a lag between fights or whatever.
Oh,
but I'm capturing replay.
Gotcha. Okay. And it's just
I did all the instant replay, and my friend that's not here, Mel, was like producer of the whole thing. This year she wasn't able to make it, so now I'm the producer of the whole thing. And then my buddy Derek is helping us out as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, as much as I can get this going. If I like, sport film is where I cut my teeth, and if I can help grow a sport through this hobby,
I mean, oh yeah, right. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, like John Book.
yeah. No, that's exactly it.
It's pretty fun.
I'm like, man, this is good, and this is big, and this is opportunity, and it's like it's been a while since I've been sitting on a control room, and then
Apparently, there may be mics on. Mel said that there are mics on. Just turn them on? Okay.
I've been telling her what's good. Like, she was like, do you have comfort? And we're like, yeah, I kind of hear him, but he's really having a conversation.
All right, folks, welcome back to day one of Carolina Carnage. I'm going to introduce my my co-commentator here, Vincent.
Hi, Vincent. I was a little bit late coming in, driving up from Dallas, or flying in from Dallas to Atlanta through, and driving in from actually Atlanta this morning, getting here, helping out a little bit with the singles going in. But yeah, so going to be here for this evening, going to be here for the rest of here before our break this evening, and then for the melees tomorrow and Sunday. So I'm excited.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. We started commentary a little bit before initially planned. So that was partly due to an injury on my part. I wasn't able to compete today. But our other commentator that will be helping out, Nate the Moose Lord Maxfield, he competed in the Longsword category, which is still ongoing. We are about to begin the men's Longsword semifinals.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm also not fighting today for a similar knee injury, and it's just going to be pretty rough watching watching the Warlords compete tomorrow and not be down there with them. But
well, at least we
we
can
are.
still do our part.
At least we can still do our part. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And it's more like now from afar we can judge everybody else and how they're doing from down there. And
Absolutely.
I think, it's great. And so it's what do they call it? Backseat driving, right?
Absolutely.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Up here in our armchairs.
Very comfy armchairs.
And as I've said, lots of upgrades each year. Our tech is always upgrading. Our production is always improving. Our list fields are always getting better. Let me tell you, we've had rope in the past, and that was all our list fields were at one point. Not at Carnage, but at other places. And so we're always improving not only the sport, but the implementation of the events that we go to. And I am extraordinarily pleased in our producer, Joel, for making sure that we have the most comfortable chairs in the building to work from today. Thank you, Joel.
We're
You're
absolutely
amazing.
spoiled. Absolutely spoiled. And like even in regards to the list, yeah, they've actually gone through different iterations of, like, as the sport grows and as the sport evolves, they see how the rail list had its deficiencies and how people were implementing it. Now we have a tabletop list, right? And so that is also changing the entire nature of the game and how the sport is played, and
Yep.
it's in seeing that evolve along with like this outside aspect of it. It's really coming to its own. It's kind of an exciting time, as we were just talking to him about. It's like kind of on the grassroots of this sport, and it's very exciting watching it grow and the iterations it goes through.
It looks like we've got the blue list filled by Sam Orion. I believe that's Daniel Winter, possibly?
Yeah, Daniel Winter and Sam Orion.
Sam in the white and black, Daniel in the blue.
Talking to Sam earlier today, I mean, both of them highly experienced fighters. I know Sam's coming in specifically for Longsword, so I know a handful of people that I've talked to are excited to see actually both of them compete.
I had the honor that I mentioned earlier on live stream of competing against Sam at the second international tournament of chivalry. I believe that was like 2014 or 15.
How'd you do?
I won. There were two long.
There you go.
There was one longsword competitor. That was me. Sam felt bad that I had no one to fight, and so he stepped away from the melees to give us
Give
one
a little bit of a
one bout.
competition.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, taking a look on the left side of your screen here, you see the red list. We have lightweight pro fights. Over there is Nicholas Homa.
And Danny Nunez, it looks like.
Actually, folks, I think we may just be live on the right side on the blue list right now. I apologize if I've addressed something incorrectly on that stream. That industrial sound you hear a little bit in the background, that's folks preparing the list for later on.
And with how much impact these lists take, through not only through the single fights, these pro fights and everything, but through the melees, it's a constant upkeep. Like I mean, for every tournament and competition you have, there are people with with drills trying to screw stuff back in, repairing the any of the broken pieces, and you may not be able to tell from here, but it usually looks pretty clean at the start of the tournament. By the end of the tournament, there are chips, there's knocks taken all out of the list, and I think probably actually takes the most injury out of anything else in this sport.
Well, so far I haven't heard of any significant injuries, so hopefully the list takes the brunt of it today.
That's always the goal, right? Pain is part of the game, but injury is not.
Action still continuing in the blue list with Sam and Daniel. Sam, earlier in his fights, was succeeding very much so with the cross body shots. And Daniel, I noticed he was succeeding with that particular maneuver, striking with his right hand only, using his left hand to keep his opponent's guard high.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting too, seeing two experienced fighters. You see them coming around. A lot of times, you see them coming into round one. They're checking each other out, testing different stuff. Seeing what's open, what's not, and then actually, if it ends up going to 3 rounds, you actually see that style kind of switch, evolve, recalculate. And it's really just this chess game back and forth. What's hitting? What's not? Where can I feint? You don't see it much from some of the lower level fighters, and they're kind of like they'll have their strategy going in, and they'll stick to that strategy. But you see these like top level experienced fighters go in and go in and really change things up.
One of the things I was impressed by was Daniel's been the only one that's been successful at not trading a leg shot for a head shot because of that left-handed defense of keeping his opponent high.
Looks like we're getting the result here.
Daniel Winter advancing in the semifinals. And let's see who the next opponents are going to be.
Gold medal match for Longsword.
Well, if that's the gold medal match, maybe I'm a little bit, if gold medal is coming up, maybe I was a little behind. No, Daniel Winter and Samurai. We're semifinals, so we'll see who they have coming in next. Thanks again for joining us on day one of Carolina Carnage 2024. Today we have the duels. So far, we have winners in men and women's buckler divisions, men and women's sword and shield, women's longsword, and we're getting ready to wrap up the men's longsword competition. We've already started the lightweight men's outrance fights. A little bit later on, we'll be picking up with the men's polearm fights. And wrapping out the day with the rest of the outrance pro fights. If you're new to the sport, the outrance or pro fights are MMA in armor. Kicks, punch, knees, elbows, grappling, and fighting on the ground are all part of the competition there.
And you actually see a lot of similar techniques that you will have in MMA. Like when you start seeing some of the duels, some of the more like striking heavy events, then you start getting, well, now we're starting to play weapons play, all that goes into it. But then when you get to the outrance fights, yeah, you're seeing knees thrown. You're seeing more stuff you actually see in the melees, right? Mm-hmm. Knees, some throws. It is as close to what we see as MMA, just in armor with weapons. And it's great. It's great to see.
And Vincent, do you compete in pro fights as well?
So I have trained a little bit in pro fights. I've only been a fighter for about a year now.
Oh, wow.
Currently do duels and mostly melee. So the majority of my stuff is in melees with the Duels Warlords, and would have been on Dominus had not. I taken a pretty serious injury to the leg. So yeah. So most of my energy goes into the melees. But it's the breakdown of going, how much conditioning do I want to get before I go into the pro fights? Because just by fighting in general, it takes so much of a gas tank. Now add 80 pounds of metal on you, and it is an exhaustion like not many people really can understand.
I was discussing with a good friend of mine. His melee kit, he's the center for his team. His melee kit is 110 pounds, not counting weapon and shield.
Yep.
My duels kit is 55 pounds, not counting weapons and shield, and that would be basically doubling what I'm carrying on my body to fight, just to upgrade that equipment to fight in the melee.
Yeah, and that's how similar that you fight differently with different weapons. The same thing, armor is going to play a big part of it, right? So you're going to have, when you're just striking for points, usually a lighter set, right? You have a lot more movability, and even in the melees, you'll see people with lighter sets. Now, most people with the melees will lean towards a more protective set, and even if you look at the outrance fighter who just fought, Nick Homa, right there. If you can even see that he changed his arms.
Yep, I was noticing that.
From what he was using in duels to what he's using now. He's a larger rear brace. I think his polearm is a little bit longer, and he actually has 2 van braces on, where in the last time he didn't have one for a shield, right?
Yep.
So that's more protective. Also, by having more protection, you're going to have more weight. And not counting it, well, are you doing titanium or are you doing steel, right?
Right, yep.
So steel will give you a little bit more protection, but be heavier. And so, at least that's the way that's the trade-off I've always been the rule of thumb. It's like, well, you can have a heavier weight, but you're a little more protected. The hits don't hurt as hard. And so, you want to get hit or not.
And I think there was some question as well with the titanium armor and how much it flexed. I believe we had a minor rib injury here that I'm not sure if it was due to the flexing of the titanium coming in, or if it was the titanium piece itself drove into the fighter. I'm not really sure the technical aspect of that, and this has been a while since it's occurred. But there are different properties between steel and titanium.
Absolutely, yeah.
As far as receiving that shot in.
Yeah, from my understanding, the titanium doesn't dissipate as much as the steel would, and which is why you're trading off like, well, the hit's gonna hurt more, but I'm faster. I can move a little bit. My gas tank is larger because it's not taking so much energy to take one step, one swing. Was it inside the brig? One of the plates came up?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Either that or it flexed in where it was hit, if it was hit individually. But speaking of armor, I'm an old timer as far as this sport goes. Been fighting since about 2013.
Betrayed by the gray hair.
I had that before the fighting here. But it's been really wonderful to see this sport evolve, and I'll be talking about this off and on throughout the live stream, as old curmudgeons like myself like to do. But in the early days, when it was just rope boundaries between fights, at the International Tournament of Chivalry, we had Ukrainian fighters coming over, and they sold a lot of their armor to us so that we could buy armor used at a discount, but also so they could have more room in their suitcases to take
back,
take souvenirs back with them. And that was where I got my first set of anatomical greaves, as well as
there you go.
Yeah,
okay.
Has upgraded my body armor as well by doing that.
And I feel like that's the thing that continues to happen. I know today some people, a lot of the Facebook marketplaces and stuff, they'll say, hey, I brought these this piece for sale, come up, don't have to pay shipping. I got it right here, and a lot of people who are driving, at least here nationally, bring some stuff to sell, the wares. I know some people were selling axes earlier.
Well, just the fact that all this armor is available for sale in the United States, because uphill both ways in the snow when I started, we had to make it ourselves, basically.
Yep, sure, yeah.
Or just happened to know somebody that had a connection or could order overseas. Now it evolved very quickly to where we were ordering from overseas suppliers. But I still fight in the arms that I made myself with my friends in the backyard. Yeah,
there's a handful of people that you have one upfront cost of buying the armor, and if it works, there's no sense of replacing it, And so a lot of people still have the same stuff. They're just like you. They have the same stuff they've been fighting the whole time. And and with the availability of it popping up, it actually drives prices down, which has actually been really nice for a lot of new fighters because a larger barrier to entry, for a sport like this is needing the armor, right?
Absolutely.
You don't just need a soccer ball. You don't just need, a disc to throw, right? So
And you need armor that fits.
and the armor. The difference of having armor that fits versus just some loaner armor. I mean, loaner armor works, and there's vague dimensions like it's a small, medium, large, and if you're within those bounds, excellent, right? But like any fitted suit, it just feels so much better, right?
Right.
Once it's on you, and I think a lot of people don't realize the maneuverability that you actually have in armor, right? People think it's clunky. People think it's it's hard to move in. Well, not really. If stuff's articulated, if stuff fits well, it feels just like just weight and feels completely fine.
And while armor works, of course, the times that armor fails, the worst injuries I've seen myself have been in borrowed armor.
Yeah.
Tips of fingers being blasted pretty hard because gauntlets didn't fit or move the way that they were expected to. Borrowed helmets not fitting correctly and causing cuts inside or become dislodged during a fight.
Gaps in a wrist where the arms don't go all the way down. A knee caught popping off because it was too big. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so when you have stuff like that, it's hard to be like, well, you gotta try to form it, try to fit it, But but it's also hard to go, well, how long am I going to be in the sport?
Right.
How much am I going to be paying for this thing? But once you have it, I mean, you got it. Just hopefully you don't get hit and you get dented.
Agreed. Well, we've got some action coming back in the form of outrance fights in the red list field. I see Nicholas Homa down there, and we'll see if we can figure out who this other fighter is.
I believe that's the Australian fighter.
I'm wondering if I'm not sure if there are two Australian fighters in the light heavyweight division because the tabard looks slightly different.
So I do know that there are two Australian fighters here this weekend.
Okay.
They stopped in at the academy in Dallas.
Okay.
I think they came in, I believe, to New York for a little bit when we were talking to them. And they stopped by the Dallas Warlord Academy, trained with us for a practice, and then going to be fighting in the melees this weekend.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's always fun. When we have these events like big, larger international events here in America, it's fun being able to be the host, right? A lot of times we're going overseas, and it's great, having the experiences of other countries and having them host and sharing their cultures and everything. But it's kind of fun being like, oh yeah, now we're here. Now it's home field, home turf.
I believe we've got Connor Miller in the green and gold, and of course Nicholas Homa in the red and blue.
Due to some uncertainty in one of our
Like I was saying earlier, see two fighters kind of filling themselves out, kind of seeing where the openings are. Nice little kick there.
Followed up with good head contact. Connor not wasting much reaction in there, seeming to want to economize his movement a bit.
And I wonder if Nick is going to play a little bit similar to how he does duels. Duels, he's a more of a standoff. He's so quick, he can stand off a little bit faster, but we're just seeing how he actually gets into the grapple and how he's able to get into the clinch. And with the overhead throw right there.
Connor taking the edge in grappling, looking to form a mount here, it seems. No, he's going for
the
knees.
Guard. Nick's doing good about keeping his leg up, not letting him take full guard, and he's able to get over.
If you've watched from previous outrance fights here at Carnage, the fighting on the ground rule has changed. They'll be able to continue fighting as long as there's, it looks like a marshal may have taken some contact there.
And that was an interesting thing I've seen in a couple other tournaments where you will see some marshals with armor on for that exact reason. And even actually hand strikes even with armor with gauntlets don't feel good.
It's been interesting talking to marshals over the years about the philosophy behind what you wear and what you don't wear, because the more armor you wear, some say that you become more of a target in the peripheral vision, especially during melees. But there's also some level that you want to protect yourself. And it seems for marshals, speed and getting out of the way is the primary use for that, but obviously there's still times there's going to be contact.
Oh, yeah.
Our head organizer, Larry, he his forearm was broken a few years ago as he was marshaling a pro fight over in that area of the arena. Someone was hip tossed, and when they landed, broke his forearm. Well, it didn't land. The leg came over and broke the forearm. And the fight resumes between Nick and Connor.
And a good trade of blows there on the longsword, as you just saw. Back to the outrance fight.
Nick picked up a nice leg strike there, and it's continuing, but Connor is taking advantage of the buckler shots to Nick's face.
They're trying to throw
Feel
in
a knee
knees.
coming.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to set up for a good knee in.
A little bit of a sweep.
Nick with good leg shots, undefended.
A
And
great
we're
round.
ready into the round.
Oh, such a good round.
Yeah, that's also pretty typical. You'll see a lot with round 2 fighters. As you know, explaining with round 1, round 2, a lot of times they go out and boom, right, full contact immediately.
I am so happy every time I see Nick fighting, unless he's opposite me in the list, because I know it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, I think at the in Kansas City recently for IMCF, I know he medaled. I believe it was silver or bronze that he got for the Sword and Shield.
And he also medaled today. He placed first in men's buckler and second in men's sword and shield. And I don't have I'll see if I can look up the results for men's longsword. See what I can find.
I believe I think they still have a few more rounds.
Oh, are they? Yeah.
Right there, back there in the yellow portion of the list.
Looks like we're going to round 3 for Nick and Connor on the red list.
And here's where you're really going to see where people's gas tanks.
And this is a hard fight, even for lightweight fighters.
Yeah, Nick is able to just obliterate that thigh, kind of uncontested, and just scoring point after point after point.
I'm wondering if the judges are going to be scoring those buckler punches that Connor's landing. One of the challenges for those body shots landing is they don't have the auditory impact of metal on metal.
Yeah, so
with
you
the
really
fabric
have
in
to
the way.
get that oomph for it. You know, because they for a lot of these points, you need full contact. You need like uncontested. Yes, that was a hit. You got it, right? And so it's easier to kind of, in a way, for a fighter to kind of cheat one out on a thigh, on a leg, because you have that metal on metal contact. But when you get somewhere in the ribs and the kidneys where it's actually still going to hurt, it sometimes won't be counted as a point.
Wondering if the marshals are going to be separating them for inactivity soon. Nick's still pushing the lower leg sweeps.
Yeah, I think he's got to be throwing a couple knees in there for it to keep going. Now with those sweeps, I mean, point or two, but not too much. If they're able to kind of set up and see if they can try to set up a throw with it, and looks like he's trying to.
And Connor gets a takedown, scoring 10 points.
Right there. And Connor's, Nick's been pretty good as he's gone down the last couple of times, not allowing Connor to get over his guard, but he's not in a good spot right now. And all of those strikes counting as points. That's a good season opportunity.
Oh, hard shots.
Those body shots, those drops, those knee drops, and he's fired up from it. Yeah, those knee drops. Wow, there's a point, but what that really does is that takes a lot of breath away, because you have the entire weight of that fighter landing on your chest every single time, and that does not feel good.
And for those of you that may be new to the sport or just joining us, those folks in yellow around the ring, there are marshals and our judges. So that judge in yellow that was kind of blocking the action there, he needs to be right there to score it. We were able to see a slightly different angle from our vantage point up here in the booth, and those body shots were just tough.
Yeah, it was great that he was able to kind of get on the side of his guard, and it looks like, you can tell there on the screen on the left side, Nick got cut there on the outside of his left brow. Looks like it's not getting too far into his eye. Doesn't look too bad. It might just be bloody. Hopefully, it won't need stitches or anything.
so many of the cuts to the face are due to sharp edges or just the normal structure of the inside of a helmet. Trying to keep all of that metal from contacting your head with padding is a challenge, especially when someone is hitting you, kneeing you in the face, and punching you with a shield.
Yeah,
Very
and
tough.
if at any point that helmet's ill-fitted, I mean, for the most part, when you get a cut on the face, if it's a little bit ill-fitted or if it's not just fastened like snugly, then it's gonna. I mean, it's metal. It's metal on skin. It's gonna get cut.
And if you're watching us on one of the live streams on YouTube or on Facebook, make sure you give us a shout out in the comments on where you're watching from. We've got competitors from all over the world, from the United Kingdom, from Canada, from Australia, from Mexico, and around South America here for the competition. So where are you viewing us from? And make sure to share this out on your favorite social media platform.
The blue list for the third place Longsword bouts. We get Sam and Nate to the blue list, please. Sometimes these rulings aren't so cut and dry, friends.
Looks like the judges are still working on the scoring for our outrance fight, but
Tallying
we've
it up, and looks like they're turning the papers, so it might be getting there. And that's the hard thing as well, kind of corroborating, make sure they got the right points, make sure they are, if one decided it was a strike, the other one didn't, how do we reconcile those things? Because the last thing we want, is a decision that gets turned over, and then the fighters have to come back, refight,
Well, Vincent, if you could handle the announcing booth for a second, I'm going to talk with Tech.
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Nate Castile and Andrew Ali to the yellow list, please.
And it looks like they're still getting a few more of the longswords going. They're in the far end, top of the screen. They're in the yellow list. Yes, after we, like he said, after we finish the lightweight for the pro fights for the outrance fighters and the longsword, we'll be moving into polearm and then moving into the after that a short break, and then we'll be going into the heavyweight today. And yeah, there is the results from Australia taking the victory. Nick's got to be disappointed from that after after his medal this morning, but I mean, he just had so much of he was just kind of taking control of that fight, 2 throws in, taking full guard, and then just scoring point after point after point right there while Nick is on the ground.
And the takedowns are worth so much that they really can make a difference in the scorecard against a fighter who is very successful in striking, but a couple of good takedowns can throw that balance out. Taking a look at the chat, thanks for watching, Damien from Poland, and Sarah from Germany, Contra from Mexico, thanks for being here with us. In the yellow list, it looks like we're getting ready for some more longsword competition. I see Jonathan McCartney, and I believe that's Andrew Ali.
Andrew Ali, that's right. So they're doing their final checks. Yeah, in case of point right there, it looks like part of the list came up as well, so they're fastening it back down. And you can't really tell, but on the bottom of the list there, where they're fastened in, there's actually rebar going through the edges and into the dirt.
I'm taking a look at the scoring. There was a men's longsword fight between Nate and Jonathan, and there was apparently an appeal filed. Jonathan is listed as the winner out from that. I'm not sure who filed the appeal, but Jonathan is listed as the winner from Nate Maxfield and Jonathan McCartney. And so we're seeing we're seeing on Andrew Ali on the left and Jonathan kind of in the center there with red.
And we'll take that corner whenever they clear out.
I'm wondering if they're, I wonder if they might be waiting for a marshal decision on something, on that appeal possibly.
Oh yeah, you can see down there at the bottom right of your screen. They got a wrench. They're fastening one of the bolts there on the list.
I distinctly recall fighting in cattle cages here one year.
Actually, that was one. Yeah, when I got into the sport and was showing people kind of what it was. Actually, the one with the cattle grates or the better YouTube video, the better YouTube videos to show people.
Always try to put in a good show here at Carnage.
I mean, as we've already talked about how this, the sports evolve. Just the events themselves, right? As it grows, as more people come in, the events themselves start growing and start evolving, going from cattle guard to actual lists.
Mm-hmm. And we've got action picking up in the yellow list. Andrew and Jonathan. Looks like Jonathan's taking advantage of Andrew's right arm, but Andrew's scoring some headshots. Oh! Those loud shots to the head are hard for the judges to ignore.
Andrew with a couple of good blocks and returning with good strikes. A lot of those strikes aren't actually making contact. Now, since you're more of a longsword fighter, is that correct? Do you much more of a longsword?
Yep, I do.
So those deflected blows won't actually count as a point if they still make contact, right? You need a clean strike to the armor, to the body, to the head, for it to actually count as a point.
Hopefully. Any judged martial art or martial sport, judges are people, and people can have different perspectives on a fight. So, of course, judging is something that is just kind of a part of any martial sport. But they should not count unless they are clean. Now, if it powers through the block and still lands with authority, then it should still be scored.
Less of a glancing blow.
Right.
Yeah. And actually, as you saw there just a second ago, the fun thing about the longsword is that you actually do, at good contact between the two blades, you actually will get some sparks flying.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things about the longsword competition, not only competing but watching it as well, is it's typically a very fast-paced activity. While buckler can be fast as well because it's not timed, it's not always as long of a fight generally. So these fast-paced, longer fights are really fun to watch.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of times with more of the longsword fights. You don't get a lot of get in, clinch, then break up for too long. It's usually like it is trading blows, back and forth, and then it's just a right, left, trying to get a couple on the top, just like that.
Good headshot.
Trying to get a good body shot in, but sacrificing the head while doing it.
Jonathan swinging for the fences there, but taking a headshot in the process.
And you see Jonathan, you see his guards dropping. He's getting tired. You see those blows getting shorter and shorter. Yeah.
Jonathan's been competing pretty much all day. I know that he competed in, I believe he competed in men's shield. I don't know if he competed in buckler or not.
And so for a lot of these fighters, when you look at like most martial arts sports, you have a couple of fights, right? You have a couple of fights. That fight's gonna have a couple of rounds, but you're not fighting for an extended amount of time, unless you get to like a large tournament similar to this. But for these fighters, right, some of them who are in multiple categories are fighting all day, and then they're coming back tomorrow to fight all day, and then coming back on Sunday to fight all day. So you have 3 full days of fighting, and just the physical wear and tear it takes. applause to all the fighters because it is tough. It's actually, and one of the things that a lot of people don't realize that when you do go back into day 2, day 3, you're having to put it back on all the sweaty gear and get right back up into it. And sometimes in that second morning, that third morning, it's a real come to Jesus moment where you go like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it.
A slimy Gambison is a unique feeling.
And actually, and on that point, you will see a lot of fighters when they have a break in the day, they just won't take it off because they don't want to put it back on. Or the ones that do, when they put it back on, you just hear kind of the moans and groans throughout the area. It's like, oh god, it's gross.
Now, we've got a fighter taking the red field. We've got 2 fighters down there, both with polearms, but they don't have a barrier up. So my question right now is, are we about to see a polearm fight, or are we about to see a polearm outrance fight?
That's actually a very good question.
Well, let me see what they have on the schedule.
Have we actually started on to the men's polearm?
Do you know either of these 2 fighters?
I don't at first glance.
I would say within 10 or 15 seconds we'll find out what type of fight this is
Yeah,
gonna be.
exactly. Now, as you were saying earlier about with the visibility and being able to see and the protectiveness and being able to see fighters from the other side in the melees, this is a perfect example that sometimes you don't even need that because they are so shiny that you get a gleam of them from anywhere on the field. But I have to admit that polished armor looks really, really good.
There are some beautiful, beautiful kits out here this year. And as we continue to talk about the increased quality of our sport and the production and the venues and the events, we've got increased quality of armor. Something like that would have been, everybody would have been stopping them to take pictures on the way to the list field early on. But now that's still remarkable, but not as remarkable because of the availability of great armor from great suppliers and artisans crafting this kind of stuff for us.
Oh yeah, and actually a few of them are represented here. We got Ala Buhurt, Age of Craft, the Buhurt Tech as well.
Medieval Extreme.
And those are kind of the more, I would say, like more commercial brands. And a lot of other ones, you'll find armor from Mexico, Poland, Ukraine, and in order from them. But it is kind of fun seeing, some fighters who buy the full set, right? They have everything matching, everything, in sync, and other fighters who are able to piecemeal the stuff together, but still look really good. And they're starting right off with a good blow. And so how they're fighting, it looks like it is just we have started on the men's polearm.
Right.
Because you'll see, I think with the profile, you're going to see a little bit more of that clinch, a bit more of that grappling.
The fighter in black and white switched his grip. And again, an interesting tactic, but also a risk. Good headshots by the fighter in black and red.
You will see a lot of polearm fighters, they'll kind of switch from right hand up, left hand down to switch it over because maybe the guard is reflective to where they can't actually get good shots in. And of note, like for these strikes to count, they have to be hitting blade to body, right? So a lot of these strikes that are going half to half, some of these strikes that are, kind of glancing off or hitting with kind of the longer side of the blade haft won't actually count.
So, looking at the list, we have Bohumil Maznikak, believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and that may be the fighter in white and black. And Isaac Solomon, I believe, my guess here, is the black and red.
I believe you're right, because it does look like, because Bohumil is coming in, you typically fighting with White Company, fighting on Dominus here this weekend. I know we also will be fighting the pro fights this evening.
It was a pleasure to have White Company joining us last year. Hard shots. And he didn't even really turn his hips all that much into that shot, and they still hit hard.
Looks like we have ourselves an armor failure. Yeah, the armor can look good, but doesn't matter if it's falling off.
So at this point, they'll have, I believe, up to 60 seconds to repair that. But his corner man looked ready with leather ties to repair it pretty quickly. Odin Knight, thanks for cheering on the Florida men. They'll be out there for the 5v5s tomorrow. So this armor is not bolted and riveted each piece to each and every piece, though the shoulder section will have rivets holding the smaller shoulder pieces together. It's not riveted directly onto the body armor, which gives it more mobility, but is also a failure point where there is the soft attachments. But even hard attachments break.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it very, very, very commonly, after a weekend of fighting, you're fixing rivets, you're having to re-rivet something, there's a dent in, one of the articulation points. Yeah, that's extremely common thing to happen. Because those, even though they are riveted, it is still a structural weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot with the polearms there, a lot of fighters will tie it to their brigadine, and some of them will actually tie it into other ones will tie it to the canvas. It's like he just kind of quick tied it on to the strap there in his brig, and they're back into fighting.
Those polearm shots to the hand cannot be comfortable, no matter how good the gauntlets are.
Right there, you can see him kind of switching it around. And you see, actually, with more experienced axe fighters and more experienced polearm fighters, there will be movement along the haft of the polearm. So that, one for striking purposes, but also just for that. It looks like Bullmill's just hunting that hand.
Looked like 10 shots straight in there.
Yeah. And it looks like it's kind of coming off again. And while it's not fully detached, there is enough of a failure there to where it needs to be put back on, because you can see there, where he's tied it on, there's like about a 1 to 2 inch gap between the top of his brig to the top of that polearm, and getting shot, getting hit there right on the top of that shoulder bone and into the clavicle. And easy break.
The clavicle being the most commonly broken bone in the body. If you're not protecting that out here on a polearm fight, it's getting shattered. And you'll be going to see the lovely folks at probably Oconee Medical Center.
Is that the closest one?
I believe that's where Larry's arm was repaired a few years ago.
Having broken my own clavicle back a long time ago, it does not feel good. Does not feel. It's the question of why isn't my arm moving?
Yeah. Getting back into the action here after that armor repair.
And counting down the last few seconds, and that's the end of the fight. Because after armor failure, they just pick back up right where they left off. Now, so for a lot of I think more polearm specifically, and with pro fighting, the outrance fighting, you see much less in the longsword and in the sword and shield. It's not just, you can win not only by points, right? You can also win by submission. You can win, by, like, if armor failure is, armor fails too much and is not able to be reattached in a certain allotted time, and is not fit to fight in, they'll also be disqualified. So a perfectly acceptable way to win is just paying compliance, right? You hit them hard enough, hit them enough, maybe in a singular spot to where they just don't want to keep going. And you see, for a lot of polearm fighters who can swing just, like a truck, hit like a truck. It is a very easy way to get someone to relent.
Down in the blue list, we have our bronze medal fight with Samurai in the black and white, and Jonathan McCartney in red. Samurai, two distinct words, but when said together, mean honor as a warrior.
Sam also sporting the plume, which you don't see with a lot of fighters. Actually really helps him stand out. I was talking to him earlier today, and he actually says, that the two colors are actually representative of two people in his life. So it's kind of like it's not just plume for fashion, but for meaning.
And I believe Sam's been fighting in that particular style of helmet for a long time. It's a beautiful style of helmet.
And they just announced the winner of that polearm fight, and Boromir will advance.
Well earned.
You know, and to the point of, more widely available armor, you actually then start seeing a larger variety of armor. Now, there's the typical, most people will wear the wolf rib or the cross nasal, or even that cross templar there. I wouldn't want to wear it, but I enjoy seeing more like the barboots and the hound skulls, and and just the variety. I think looks really good, especially in duels, but even in melees. I like seeing the variety. I like not everyone just wearing the same thing, because you kind of it more so even with duels that you have your own little flavor. You have your you have your colors, you have your style, you have everything to make you distinctively different from other fighters.
Well, in duels and the pro fights I've had, I fight with a clap visor bassinet. And while I very much enjoy it, and it helps me slip shield punches during pro fights, it doesn't provide the visibility or breathability that a wolf rib will. And I have a backup wolf rib. I just haven't been brave enough to take sword shots in it yet. Jonathan continuing on with the flurry of blows, moving in and out. Sam defending very well.
Yeah, both of these fights just high intensity.
On the top left of your screen, we've got the men's polearm fights continuing.
It's actually great seeing these two distinctive styles back to back, because you see, on the top left with the polearm, slower, harder strikes, and the quickness of the longsword. And you kind of seeing them together, you can really see like just two completely different styles of fighting.
Absolutely. And Sam raining in 3 quick shots, 4 to the left side of Jonathan's head. And that's time. What a fight for bronze.
And he's immediately taking off those gloves, trying to get some air.
What a fight. On both lists. Yeah, if you're not entertained by this, I don't know that you can fog a mirror. We'll check the YouTube comments, see if we have anything going on there. Hope the audio and the video is going well for you folks. We got a great production crew up here that are always working to make sure that we have a good product that we can put out.
And if you do notice that maybe either the audio's not working well, or maybe a stream cutout or anything that we're not able to fully recognize right at first, let us know. It'll help us out.
Absolutely. And you were talking about the different styles of fighting. In longsword, I think the swords are generally very comparable. But in both of these polearm fights, we've seen very different polearms.
Absolutely.
One with longer blades at the end, and others with shorter axes. Samurai winning bronze. Christopher, thanks for commenting from the UK. Glad that you're here. And Christopher saying that Bohumil is a world champion in polearm, and it's easy to see that. Easy to see that.
Yeah, Bohumil is a top of the top tier fighters. It's going to be exciting to watch an pro fight this evening.
And from the few interactions I've had with him last year, a gentleman in the night as well.
That's one of those things that is kind of usually across most fighting sports. You will have a lot of they're just devils in the ring, but like outside of it, they're just the nicest people. They're the nicest people, and specifically even in this sport. And I've had many conversations with people about it, just how everyone is good sportsmanship. I mean, being able to really weed out. Dickheads. I'm not sure how else to say it, but it really weeds out people who just aren't really fit in sportsman sport.
So down here in the blue list, we have the gold medal match. Andrew Ali in black against Daniel Winter. Daniel was going back to his successful strategy of tying up his opponent's weapon with his left hand while striking low. Sam's movement working to combat that.
And we have ourselves a decision for men's forearm.
Takes a strong arm to throw a longsword with authority one-handed.
It absolutely does.
But he's succeeding.
And let the time run out to the end of that first round. See how the decision shakes up.
Jonathan, thanks for watching for Louisiana. And a shout out to Joel and Derek from Mel. And a shout out to Mel as well. Hope you're back to join us next year.
Yeah, and here on the, I got the Facebook comments up here, and there's, saying, Al's aiming for the inside gauntlet. Can't fight back if you can't hold your weapon. I mean, that's absolutely true, right? If you can't hold your weapon, you can't fight. If you can't fight, you get disqualified. And we're going for the round one for this polearm. And we started round two for this longsword.
Daniel working that single-handed right arm. And now that I'm looking a little closer at his longsword, it appears it may be a little bit of a smaller longsword that Daniel's fighting with. Maybe lighter weight, maybe easier to handle one-handed.
Yeah, so with the longsword and the sword and shield, there actually is a range of acceptable weight for weight and length for the swords. And so sometimes people have the heavier end, some of the lighter end, but there is a top and low end of how heavy the sword can be. Now, with the axes and these polearms, with such a variety, it's a little bit different. The axes have their own regulations of what is and is not acceptable. The spears, the glaives, all of them specifically have their own style, or their own rules. So that's why you have a little bit more variety in how how they're striking with the speed, the heavy blows, et cetera, et cetera. Where the longsword, it's a little more standardized.
Well, we've wrapped up round two for the men's longsword gold medal match. We're waiting to see if this is going to go to a third round or if the second round decided it. It's a little odd. They've actually been stopping the fighting during gold medal matches. I don't know if the decision was made to continue for scheduling purposes, or if it what the coordination was there. But it looks like we have a decision in the blue list.
For gold medal.
Gold medal, men's longsword, Daniel Winter. But a well-earned silver for Andrew Ali.
Medal winners, please report to the field for your medals.
They probably have, thinking about it, I'm sure that there's that delay just to give that a little bit of extra rest, because people who've made it to that final round, I mean, they've had the 4 or 5 fights leading up to it,
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there's a huge difference of 5-minute rest to a 10-minute rest, especially when you're going all out for these medal matches.
And I believe what we're witnessing from the red list is a polearm fight in the women's division. See if I can find it on the list. Yes, this is Spencer Sybeck and Celeste. Bronze medal to Samurai.
Silver going to Andrew Ali.
Daniel Winter representing very well. And what is that team tabard?
That is the Dominus team tabard.
Dominus,
Yep,
okay.
That's Dominus, which he will be fighting with tomorrow.
They fought so well last year. It's going to be a joy to see them fight tomorrow.
Yeah. There's a handful of teams, and we'll get into it tomorrow. But there's a handful of teams I'm very excited to see the matchup and how they go. Dominus definitely being the favorite.
And the polearm winner is Celeste. Up next in polearm, we have Isaac Solomon and Evan Bullock.
This is also something you see a lot with, I mean, it was happening before we started the day. I know it's going to happen when we end the day, and it's going to happen tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, is that all the fighters, we were talking about sportsmanship, like what they're doing, they're sharing pointers right now, right? All three of them. A lot of these fighters are coming in, they're, you know, if they don't know if they're going to win, that's okay. They're here to learn, they're here to get better, they're here to like actually try to contend as best they can. And everyone, one of the wonderful things about the sport is there's no secret keeping of knowledge, right? Everyone is very open about sharing. Hey, here's what I did, and here's how I won. Here's this new technique we're learning. Here's our style of fighting, and we actually just came off of winter camp in Dallas. Fighters from all around the nation coming in, and we're sharing our techniques. We're sharing how we do stuff, our styles. And then there was one up in Ninth Hall, I know, before that. And so there's lots of training camps. And you know what they say? What's the phrase? High tides raises all ships. I think it's one of the great things about helping the sport grow. And you see there with the handful of those shots to the helm. It won't actually, I mean, per judgment, but it looks like those actually probably won't count. You need distinctive and purposeful shots, and just like a dink, 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 dink won't actually count. It looks like he's having to deal with another malfunction with his visor.
So if you're following along on PalmonaKnights.com, he has a visor rivet that's popped loose. That is a hard fix in 60 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, we have armorers on site, and if you walk outside, you'll see. I can look at them right now, and they're working on stuff. They're going to be working on broken armor, fixing rivets all weekend. But as the rule states for this, you can see as he's pulling it off where that broke off from the helmet there to the top of the neck. It's got to be fixed within the allotted time, or else the fighter's disqualified.
If you're following along on PalmonaKnights.com/Carolina-Carnage, what we're looking at right now in the red list looks like a little bit of a change. We are bringing that over from the yellow list tab, from the polearm fights on the yellow list tab. So this is Isaac Solomon and Evan Bullock.
And if you are watching live,
he switched.
He switched helmets. Okay, there you go.
I wonder if this is his melee helmet or a duels helmet, or if this is a friend's helmet.
If it's within the bounds, and if it's a legal helmet, and if it's strapped on properly, well, it's acceptable.
And the question here is if this is a borrowed helmet. We said before that the most common injuries are from borrowed gear.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
Ill-fitting
won't result
materials,
today.
Yeah.
And in the blue list, we have Ian Webb in blue, red and white.
Yeah. Ian being one of the larger fighters in this tournament.
And his opponent, Zale, I believe.
Looks like they're on the red list. They were able to get that helmet strapped on with a lot of time. They're back into fighting.
Oh, there's a hard horizontal shot. And a hard shot to the helmet.
And yeah, if he's just allowing those shots to come through, I mean, you can't just let those things happen. You got to switch that grip over. And this is the perfect time where you should just switch those hands, take off that thing. Because if he's able to block with it half, I mean, he's trying to a little bit there, but you got to be able to switch it up.
And the flat or the large areas of the helmet can take lots of punishment, like we're seeing right now. Yeah. And the fighters inside of them can take lots of punishment, but it was that one rivet taking punishment that made him switch out his helmet. So sometimes you may not have to defend for points or for your own safety, because of where it's going to land, you'll be safe. But you may have to protect your armor.
Yeah.
Another old man fighter story here for you. Back in 2015, I was in a pro fight with an incredible fighter. We were down in Atlanta, and we had a pro fight, and he successfully managed to hit the rivet on the strap holding the buckle for my chin strap. and I felt my helmet move around. We were in the 3rd round of said pro fight, and I thought I was going to win, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to repair that helmet if it was noticed that it was no longer attached to my head.
Yeah.
So he stepped in and grabbed me to throw me, and he grabbed my helmet. So I was fighting to keep my helmet on my head for the last 5 seconds, hearing the crowd count it out, and I was able to let go at the last second and not be disqualified.
Oh,
and we
and
have a broken polearm.
And the head of the polearm in the red list just broke right off. I mean, you hate to see it. Like if you're coming in to fight and you're having armor failures and weapon failures, it's not a way you want to go.
Well, polearm is relatively new as far as the duels go. It hasn't always been something that at least the competitions in the United States have had. It may have been available overseas more often in the past, but for us, we haven't always had polearm fights. So it's interesting to see the attrition of the equipment here. Now, we've always had polearm in the melees, and they've always had their own set of issues with failing. Luckily, though, axe heads are so much cheaper than swords.
And actually, to your point that you said earlier about bringing stuff internationally and then coming home with it, a lot of fighters will just at the end of the tournament, they'll just take the head off the haft to rehaft it when they get back home, just for weight and for convenience sake. That is where I will give a shout out, because I know that they were kind of selling some of the pole arms made by Brett Skinner. Brett unable to fight this weekend. Had a baby. But regarding one of the well-manufactured halves.
That headbutt there is not scored for points in the polearm competition.
Oh, and trying to get one last blow in there before the time.
Well done, fighters. Well done.
Looks like we've got a winner in the blue list. The Marshals raising the hand of Zale,
Colton
possibly.
Zale.
Zale.
Yeah, trying to keep these as updated as possible, but sometimes you'll have fighters drop out, sometimes you'll have fighters not able to come, so time to keep on our toes. So if we do, have any mistakes, we apologize. We are but mortal.
We'll see if we can get the YouTube comment section back up. We've got another polearm fight taking place in the blue list.
It's Michael Stewart and Ethan Watt. And one of them sporting the full curse.
I think I just saw 2 dents.
Just forming that helmet.
I think those were fresh. I hope not. Of course, the left side of a helmet is always more likely to take damage, but if that helmet, hopefully, there's no way that helmet just dented 2 or 3 times.
It might just be a seasoned helmet, and after so many tournaments,
well,
get a few dents.
Maybe he could help us with an experiment and hit the right side of the helmet once or twice, just to.
Would that buff it back out? Kind of pop the left side back out? It looks like he took a good shot there to the thigh. Oh, no, actually probably inside that gap. Not sure if it was in the groin area, but there is that little space between where a fighter should be wearing their cup to the inside of that hip, high thigh, where a lot of times you might not get full coverage. If they could just get the edge of that blade in there.
And speaking of groin protection, if the Nutty Buddy company would like to sponsor our sport, by all means, please do. It is by far the best piece of equipment I have ever seen for the safety of male protection.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of fighters also talk about the Diamond Cup.
The Diamond?
The Diamond Cup, yeah. And the good experiences they've had with that. Either way, You definitely should
Broken
have one.
pole arm on the
Another one
Duels.
going down. So we're 2 down today.
Well, they had it ready.
Looks a little bit stronger hafted there.
And I guess
And a great shot to the shoulder.
And I guess that's part of the strategy for polearm fighting as well, is a stronger haft would also be a heavier one to wield.
Or you just constantly try to hit him as hard as you can, and so hard that it just breaks it off. You tap into the, as Simon Rourke would say, the nerd rage.
Oh.
And with those strikes, I mean, twice that shoulder had been exposed, and
Well-
he just swimming over. A great swim across the top of the pole arm into the shoulder, and he's just kind of punching it.
2 of those strikes were haft only, though, so I'm not sure they will count.
And that might be the difference of, am I going for points, or am I just trying to, if I hit that hard enough, then by the second round, you can really exploit it even better. It looks like with the marshals commentating, because there is a spot that are no strike zones, in this entire sport, there are spots you cannot hit. Back of knee, groin, and anywhere to the neck area. So there's a spot where on the neck, even though it is protected by the aventail, you're not allowed to strike. And I think it's what the marshal was telling him, is that, be careful while you are hitting the top of that shoulder where the collarbone is, that it is encroaching in that area. And now once you get that verbal warning, if it continues to happen, there's a chance you get carded, a yellow card, and after that, a red card.
Taking a look at the YouTube comments, Bo, I completely agree that polearm fights are better without the court. Hopefully we get to see more of that. Christopher, thanks for cheering on Daniel. And Bo, thanks for cheering on Ethan. Now, unfortunately, I don't know which fighter is which, but the one in the white, black, and gold had his hand raised there. We'll see if we can get an update from the scorecard online. What a day of fighting so far here.
And more to come.
We'll be getting toward the end of the polearm fights, and the men's lightweight outrance fights have already wrapped up for the day, it seems. And we'll be taking a break and coming back this evening for Friday night fights. The arena will close down for about an hour and a half or so, depending on how soon the fights from the daytime tournament wrap up. And then it will reopen, and the live stream will be continuing on then for the evening outrance fights. I think we're going to see probably the hardest competition we've seen all day with that. But I wonder how many of those fighters are also competing tomorrow in the 5v5s.
Absolutely. I think what it seems like, I think the majority of them are. Now, a lot of the duelists, they kind of come for duels specifically. And from my experience and what I've seen is that most of the ones who are pro fights are also going into the melees.
And as the sport grows, in the beginning at events like Carnage and all around the country, we would, as duelists, we would come in and fight as many duels as we could. And it was kind of the idea of, well, we've got 10 duelists here, you're going to have to fight everything. You're going to have to just triathlon everything, because we need people in every division. You've got to fight it all.
Yeah.
And over time, it was interesting to see the competition improve because people were able to choose which list they wanted to fight in. When they had to fight in all 3 to keep the list full, they were tired by their favorite longsword or buckler fights. But now they can come in as specialists and say, no, I'm here to win longsword. Forget everything else. I'm going to go and put all my effort into that. And that raises the overall competition to have that specialization.
It really does. Yeah, and if nothing else, coming in, usually if you're not traveling internationally, you're traveling across states, you just want to get as many fights as you can. You come here for fighting, you want to get the fights in.
Absolutely. Taking a look at men's polearm list, I believe we're going to have Ian Webb and Ethan Watt up next. So Ethan Watt was the winner of the last bout. They gave him a little bit of time to relax. And he is now going to be facing Ian Webb in the red, white, and blue.
Ethan in the black, yellow, and white. Not only, we've talked about the different styles of fighting and everything, from sword and shield to buckler to longsword to this, there's actually a huge size difference in the fighters that are doing these. Typically for the polearms, you just have the biggest of boys coming in and just trying to get their wax in and trying to hit as hard as they can. For a lot of times, you don't see as much as finesse as you would probably in the sword and shield and the longsword or with kind of the smaller guys. Ian trying to get a couple shots there under the arm.
It's interesting. Ian seems to be focusing on horizontal shots. Maybe like he's targeting the right elbow of Ethan.
Yeah, and each of those overhead shots that Ethan's taking is raising that elbow enough to where Ian is able to get that shot in.
But it's a bad trade, the points for a head for the points for an elbow.
Ian trying to figure out how long his reach is. He's able to back him in the corner. He's able to,
Now it looks like he's going for the hand.
Don't worry about the reach. Heavy shot to the head.
But anytime you hit Ian in the head, you're hitting upward. And those upward shots just don't have the same type of impact. Well, maybe not any time you're hitting Ian in the head. When you're hitting him in the side of the head, you're probably hitting upward. You can get a polearm head above his head.
It's a lot harder strike to make because you kind of have to go. Then you have to make sure you are going down to get enough impact to hit up, high. And then at that point, you have a smaller window of actual contact that you can actually make. So you have to be more precise and take it at a different angle.
There's a nice shot of the great helm of Ian Webb.
Readying the fighters. And we have a start fight.
Oh. Tough shots landing in there.
Yeah, it was a lot of those shots by Ian are just kind of hitting the haft, not really scoring points. And Ethan really able to choke down on his polearm, keep that distance because his is a bit longer. Keep that distance and get those headshots without being able to Ian to be able to really effectively return the blow. Ian getting a couple good hand shots in there. And as we saw from the bone meal fight, those shots in the hand, they can be really detrimental. And we have a stop fight into the round. Let's see if we're going to go to round 3 or not.
And we've been enjoying these polearm fights, folks. That's what I like to hear about finding us some energy out there.
So we do have a good amount of people here, not only just with the audience, with the fighters as well. And it's going to be kind of fun seeing tomorrow more fun because I know there's still a lot of fighters travel in specifically for the melee. So I know some, at least even from my team, they're coming driving in right now. And so tomorrow's going to have a lot more people. More in the audience. The energy is going to be pretty palpable.
Taking a look at the a little bit of the YouTube comments up top, someone was asking about stabbing. Does that mean you win or you go to jail? Well, first of all, you would at least be red carded.
Absolutely. And we have results.
Ethan
with the victory.
Hard fought on both sides. So while you've seen many, many hard strikes coming in from these weapons, all sorts of weapons all day long, thrusts with the weapon are not allowed. You can punch with a shield, you can punch with a gauntleted hand, but there are limited links on the crossguard to the sword to prevent a thrusting motion from a metal weapon itself. Are you aware of the lore behind that rule?
I would think it had to deal with an eye and a wolf rib.
Well, that has certainly occurred several times, but in the early days of the sport, being an old man again,
Here we go.
the translation of the rules was not in English yet, and when the rules were translated for those that spoke English, the idea of a thrust or a jab or a stab had to be conveyed in some way. So the translation was much like a needle pricking you with the point. And so the rule was stated, no pricks with weapons. And the American team thought they were immediately disqualified as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it does rule out a good chunk of people, myself included.
Once the rules were correctly translated, we are disallowed from stabbing with said weapons.
Yeah, and this is cross-category, cross-weapon, whether that's a spear, axe, sword, long sword, short sword, whatever it is, there is no thrusting. Now, however, pommel strikes are okay.
Yep.
But it's categorized specifically as a pommel strike. And for those who don't know, the pommel being the bottom of the weapon.
It looks like we just had a bye or a forfeited fight, and Zale took that, I believe.
Yeah, unclear if that was actually, if a fighter dropped, or it could have been a fighter who, like we said earlier, some of these fighters are all day long.
Absolutely.
And by the end of the day, sometimes you kind of have to make the choice. Like, do I want to keep fighting on this, or do I want to save myself for tomorrow? Do I want to save myself for maybe a category I'm going to have later on? Maybe I didn't care so much about Longsword. I do really care about pro fights. Maybe I'll kind of relent on this one and maybe not do as much on the Longsword, go into pro fights, have all my energy, make sure I give the competition I want to give, because that's the one I'm focused on, right? So there's a handful of fighters who are more concerned about one over the other.
Absolutely. Martin, thanks for cheering on from Scotland. And yes, Jerry, we will do our very best not to hurt Larry this year. But you have to admit, sometimes he earns it.
I think Larry has to decide if Larry's going to get hurt with the sword, with the weapon this year.
For those of you who don't know, Larry is such a great force in this sport. He doesn't like me saying things like this, so he may come after me later, but it's worth the risk. He does so much work, not only for our team and the sport overall, but making it what it is here. As well, if you look at them there in the middle of the screen, there's Larry, and standing beside him is Trey. Both of them just forces of nature when it comes to making this happen.
And you will see him kind of walk in the background, either donning that blue hat as you just saw, or occasionally a red one.
He had a red sparkly hat earlier today with some tinsel on it, I do believe.
Yeah, kind of standing out because, when you're organizing one of these things, there's people trying to ask Tachi all the time, and got to be easily findable. Now, here's a new fighter story. As you had your old man stories, here's a young man story. Is that kind of coming into this, hear about different stories and lores and things like that. But one of the things I heard specifically from multiple people across the nation was that Carnage is one of the best run and well-funded, well-run events in the U.S. every single year, and Larry is one of the best organizers that you can have. And that was not knowing anything about, that was within the first month or two of being in the sport. Carnage came around, and they were like, and it was like, oh, what's that? That sounds pretty cool. And they, get all explained to me, and it was just praise after praise after praise after praise with Larry. And it didn't being on this side of stuff, being on the organizing side, and just the communication, it's been phenomenal. It's been like everything is well underhand.
Well, it's such an honor to be here and be part of Palmetto Nights to help put this on, and it's great to know that there's a good reputation out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Looks like down here in the blue list we have, I believe that's Zale and Ethan getting ready to take the polearm field.
Zale in the light blue and black, and Ethan again with the black, white, and yellow.
Ethan throwing first contact, Zale block. Zale making first contact to the head.
And Ethan's been doing really well with that swim move, trying to get it across the side of the blade, into the shoulder or the side of the head.
And Zale is showing a technique that I haven't seen that much today, which is blocking with the non-axe head side of it high to drop the axe head low. I haven't seen that as much in the duels today. I like that technique a lot.
Yeah, it's actually something you'll see from like even with these, some of the more experienced fighters and some of the less experienced is that, you know, some of the less experienced, they have their grip, they have the same way, and they're just trying to hammer on, you know, kind of one side, but the same grip, right? And we talked earlier about, you know, switching sides, switching grips, but not only that, you have switching verticalities, right? Are you swinging up? Or are you dropping head? You know, like, are you raising that shaft up so you can block with a high shaft? You know. And just from earlier, it was pretty effective.
And this is an interesting series of fights when you look at it. I know that Ethan had 2 fights in a row. They gave him a short break. He seems like he has lots of athleticism, is able to continue on. But then Zale just had a bye, just had no fight at all. So that means Ethan had to come in faster.
Yep.
And Zale is probably more rested. So I don't think Ethan is swinging any softer than he was before, but we'll see if that has any effect on the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it is usually one of the big determining factors: who's gassed, who's not. You know, that's just kind of one of those. You know, one of the dirty things about a tournament sport and in pools and stuff like that is that sometimes you don't get the break that other fighters do. Right? It happens. Happens with all the categories here. It will happen again with melees, and they've been good with some of these pauses about allowing the fighters to have a break, recharge, refuel. And you saw earlier back in that corner, they were talking about that swim strike, and even Zale looked like at the end of that fight, just kind of commenting Ethan on that. You know, kind of see him have that hand motion on that swim strike across the head into that shoulder.
Good timing on that.
Just like that. Oh, it was a perfect, that was a great block, knowing that's going to come there, dropping that head down to block at the top of the haft.
And Zale seems to have been timing Ethan's, he's kind of withdrawing a bit to prepare for that powerful shot. And Zale seemed to be timing that to make that headshot. But Ethan returning with a good headshot of his own.
Yeah, he's been a very responsive fighter. He's taking it in and seeing, where that timing is, where can I get that quick strike in. Because he has energy, so he's able to get, just like that, he's able to get that quick strike in. And Ethan having to do a couple fights, his striking is getting slower and slower. And so if you can just get that, block that slow shot with a quick strike in, right to the head, like Dale was able to do a couple times.
Well, we'll see if this goes to a third round. That is some beautiful armor right there, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of it fitting really well. I've been a fan of that of the Curious, but with that top rig style, with the felt and the points on there. Like I really enjoy that. Now, like that is the heavier one. And part of me says, maybe I want it for melees, maybe I don't, because it's pretty darn heavy. But you will see a handful of fighters who have them.
There have been more than just a few times that I have wanted to have tassets on the side like that.
Oh, yeah. And actually, you see what Ian was wearing as well. If you don't have the tassets, there's a skirt you can actually wear across the hips to protect for just that thing. And we have ourselves a decision. Zale coming away with the victory.
And good respect by both fighters afterward. Of all the times that I've seen celebration after a win, I've never seen a rude celebration.
Yeah.
No one spiking the football, so to speak. Getting up in a nice loud shout and throwing their hands up to the crowd to get the crowd into the celebration of a victory. But I've never seen anyone. I've seen some mild rude behavior, but I haven't seen any in the duels, in the pro fights, of just straight up rudeness.
Yeah,
in a celebration.
No sore winners. Yeah, and that I think that's kind of cross aspect with fighting in general is that fighters know exactly what the person had to go through to be in that exact same spot, and in that fight, exactly what they're going through and what they're feeling at that exact moment, So there is that, if nothing else, there's at least that physical respect of going like, hey, you just had a rough time, I just had a rough time, and it's been a rough road getting here, right? And so there is the definite respect and humility through it. And it's nice to see, at least in this sport, that's kind of permeated through pretty much all the fighters. Is that there's that respect and that humility.
Now I've seen some people in pro fights push off their opponent to stand up. That's not particularly sportsman. And I've seen some people kind of dismount over the head of their opponent, which is not all that sportsmanlike. But sometimes you're tied up in weird places and you have to get out of it. But overall, one of the most respectful sports I've ever seen.
So looking at the Facebook chat, it's actually getting just at the last few minutes, it's actually really popping off. Go Zale. It looks like, I believe Zale's from War Pigs is what it sounds like from Alex. Oh, the IAC armor, as Mike was saying, is from Molesky. Molesky being one of the more famous and popular armorers out there. And hi, Kenny. How's it going? Good to see you. Glad you're tuning in. Kenny, Kenneth Allen there coming in from Dallas. Wish you were here.
I wonder if any of the fighters coming in are viewing the live stream on the drive-in.
If you're a fighter viewing the live stream on the drive-in, comment to let us know. Say
Absolutely.
hello. Say who you're fighting with. Where you're driving in from.
Eyes on the road.
If you're not, if you're in the passenger, do it.
Let the drivers listen. Drivers.
Do they not have that feature in the Tesla yet, where you can just say, hey, comment to the live stream real fast. Hey Tesla, comment. Yeah. And yes, Mike. The Mike Clark, the classic slogan. Yes, boo hurt is life. Boo hurt is love. Boo hurt is life.
And occasionally bleeding. Speaking of which, I'm happy to see our medics getting to sit down and not have to do anything yet. Let's hope they get lots of rest this weekend.
Absolutely. And kind of like, what we said earlier is that pain compliance is a thing. With those hand strikes, with some of you're trying to hammer in just one specific point, like he was doing on the shoulder there earlier. If you get him to go down, you get him to go down, right? And pain is the name of the game. And it's that distinction, and to not misunderstand me, it's the distinction of, we kind of want to hurt each other, but we don't want to injure each other, right? We want to hurt you to win, but we don't want to injure you.
Like some pain's okay.
Pain's okay. Pain's okay. It's the name of the sport. I mean, you're getting hit. Pain's okay. Now, there is a lot of knowing how much it hurts to get hit with a lot of those. There are some fighters who, they pull when they need to, or they'll give kind of like, hey, here, specifically with the melees, hey, here's a warning shot. Hey, if you don't, then I'm gonna. And you get one. Okay, here it comes. So there is, going back to the good sportsmanship. That is pretty common among a lot of fighters. But then when you have, in the finals, it's kind of no hold bar, right? Like, I'm gonna hit you.
Legal shots.
And it's a legal shot. Exactly. Yes, to be clear, legal shots. And if it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt, right? And but the thing is, we don't want to injure anybody. And that happens though.
It's been a little while since I've watched a world championship, but I do recall some of the competitive teams at the high levels will choose not to have, let's say if they have Team 1 and Team 2 from their country, if they're about to compete in the quarterfinals or something like that, they'll wave it off and the second team will bow out.
Yeah, actually this just happened recently at the Different League, the IMCF tournament there in Kansas City, is that the two final teams were Dominus 1 and Dominus 2. And so it was we'll have a fun fight. We will fight. We'll have a fun fight, but we're not trying to injure each other. We're not trying to do anything more than that. So we're gonna have a fight, and you'll see. I don't believe this weekend, but in other tournaments, you'll have a team sports. Two teams, right? A and B, or white and black, or red and blue, A and B team, and when they do match up, there is a knee taken so that there's no risk of injury.
It's a competitive choice by the teams themselves.
Because whether you like it or not, accidents happen. Accidents happen. Twisted the knee here, misstep there, a throw that doesn't quite go as planned. We'll
see if I can find the list.
Don't jinx it. Yes, right, Dusty. Don't jinx it. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we, in this sport, we don't say, go break a leg, because you
Right.
know, that
That's-
is a possibility.
Yeah, that's not encouragement, that's instruction.
And having been currently being one of those people who has a broken leg, then yes, it's we don't want it.
Let's see, we do have some more polearm fights. It looks like Zale and Isaac Solomon will be facing each other.
And I believe that will be the wrap up for men's polearm. Maybe we have one more kind of round of fights here, and then.
Well, I think we have the bronze and the gold match after that.
Okay. So we'll have a few more fights, and then finishing up the men's polearm. After that, then we'll be taking our break, unless I'm mistaken, and then tuning in again 7 p.m. local time. 6:30, the fighters will be back, getting ready back up, and we'll probably have the live stream started around then to get in, have the fights starting at 7.
While we're still waiting for the fighters to come to the blue list, we'll go ahead and recap some of our winners from earlier today. Earlier in the women's buckler, Kaylee Houston took first place, Christine Napolitano was second, and Elise Ellington placed third. Men's buckler, first was Nicholas Homa, as he has in previous years. Second place was Sean Kennicott, and third was Dakota Miller. Women's shield, first was Katie Bowman, second was Kaylee Houston, and third Gina Rodriguez. Fourth men's shield was Stephen Galligan, second was Nicholas Homa, and third was Andrew Ali. Women's longsword, first place was Celeste, second is Beth Hammer, and third was Katie Bowman. In men's longsword, first place was Daniel Winter, second place was Andrew Ali, and third Sam Arad. Names represented multiple times, great fighters, great duelists, and some of them also being melee fighters for tomorrow.
Yeah. And just like in school, if one person's taking notes, then I feel fine not taking notes myself. Man, it looks like we're getting back in the list. We're starting fights right up. They're checking. The marshal's checking the fighters, and they're getting started.
So at some point, I would love to see a fight between Ethan and Isaac, just to see both sets of armor on the field next to each other.
That's gonna be it's gonna be a shiny look, and you can see it right now the gleam coming off the light. Just a repetition of strikes, but none of those really counting because you can hear that half. The strike in there, and that's a clean shot. Unfortunately, most of those hits right there aren't actually counting. He's got to just at least step in and try to get across the edge and land that axe head right there on the side of his helmet, but none of those are counting. And just returning the shot there for a quick, easy point. I have nothing else if he just, there we go. If he just starts aiming a little bit lower, get a couple of high shots, make him raise guard, and then take a shot either to the thigh, to the abdomen.
And it looks like Isaac has maintained that alternate helmet. The other one may be in the process of getting repaired, but he's using the wolf rib for the moment. Over on the red list, we have a continuation. It looks like Ethan and
Bohmiel.
A technical fight for these two very powerful competitors.
Uma coming in, trying to get a grapple in there.
His reaction was very fast to his axe head getting caught, and he's immediately closing with the opponent to reduce the likelihood of getting hit from range.
And that was a good example for those who don't know. After that was what we call a clinch. And as you saw, they kind of both stopped, and after 5 seconds of inactivity in a clinch, the marshals will separate the fighters, and then they will resume the fight.
Another clinch there on the red list.
Bull will be a very physical fighter, and I expect that's probably actually how it's going to look exactly when he has his pro fights here later this evening. He's getting in close and not shy away from this physicality.
Quick shot there, and an escape by Zale.
5 seconds of the round in the blue ring. This could decide who moves on to the next round.
And the Marshals ending the action there for the second round. I'm not seeing this fight over here listed yet. There may have been a tie.
Yeah, I'm looking for that same thing. And I believe with that buy is kind of what's shaking this up a little bit. We'll try to keep you up to date, everybody. And trying to get a good palm strike there. Oh, losing control of his weapon. Bullmill able to get a few good shots. One actually sparking.
And disarming an opponent scores points as well.
That's right. Now, I wonder, after just noticing it as his hands moves, you see on Ethan's, on his halberd there, his polearm, that there's actually kind of two areas that he put grip on, right? And I wonder if that almost, well, as I say that he switches there, but you see him kind of cheating back to those grips. And I wonder if that is if that's almost a detriment to his own fight, is because he's looking to stay on those grips and not utilizing the full use of the haft.
What a great fight. And I believe Zale had his hand raised on the blue list. I'm not sure, but I'll confirm that.
I believe he did. I think after looking at that fight, I believe he actually, would have been probably surprised had he not. But a great effort from all these fighters today.
Absolutely.
And for one of the hard things as well is for a lot of the new fighters coming in, many of them are represented here today, and all throughout the year, the hardest thing for new fighters is you just got to fight, and sometimes that just means getting your butt whooped, and it sucks and it's hard, but that's the best way to get better is fighting more. And Boemil having his hand raised, taking the victory over Ethan.
And it seems we might have had a couple of fighters might have dropped from what was initially the yellow polearm list that was being fought in the red list field for the ease of viewing from the cameras.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that was a semifinal or not.
So I believe one of them, Jeremy Tyndall, I believe also, I'm not seeing him in a fight, so he might have actually been one of them. Through the list here.
Well, it's a pleasure to bring you Carolina Carnage 2024 from beautiful Pendleton, South Carolina at the T. Ed Garrison Rodeo Arena. We'll be here for the next 2 days. So even once the live stream clocks out later tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern or roundabout, make sure to tune back in tomorrow at around 10 o'clock Eastern U.S. time for the 5 versus 5 starting then, and again on Sunday.
And Saturday will be a full day of fighting from dawn till dusk, and then Sunday dawn till mostly done, or mid-afternoon, early evening, if things run on schedule, which so far they've been pretty well. I believe the other fighter who dropped, let's see, looked like Evan Bullock was with his last couple of fights. Might have been the other one that possibly could have dropped.
Possibly, I believe so. We have a schedule update. I heard the shout out from Larry. Let's see what we've got. there are so many more marshals here than I've ever seen. Now, part of that is because of the added list field, but part of that is because the willingness of the folks that want to be marshals to come out here and commit their time, effort, energy, and risk their hands and their bodies somewhat to get in there and make sure that our fighters are safe and following the rules, and we have a great sport to present to y'all.
So it looks like the next couple fights, I believe we've had the Colton and Isaac, Zale and Isaac, and then there's the Isaac and Ethan, Isaac Solomon, Ethan Watt, and then the Zale versus Bohemiel.
Based on the earlier fights, it looks like Isaac and Ethan will be fighting for bronze, and Zale and Bohemiel will be fighting for gold. Taking a look at this wide shot of the arena, this is just a reminder, those empty blue seats on the other side are actually for fighters and support staff to sit in. That's not a lack of spectators. The spectators are all on the camera side. You can see some of them moving across on the lower portion of your screen. And it's a small number expected because of Friday. But even this evening for the Friday night fights, I think we're going to have a large increase from students getting out of the local colleges, as well as folks getting out of work and coming on over. But those empty seats on the other side, those were reserved for fighters and crew. We do have a growing crowd here at the T. Ed Garrison Arena.
Yeah, and as you can see, with that wide shot, a lot of the fighters and everybody just hanging out, talking to each other. I mean, it's great, close-knit community. Everyone's very friendly, as we keep saying, because it's true. I mean, everyone's very welcoming, everyone's very friendly, because everyone wants the sport to grow. Everyone wants the sport to be healthy and strong, and the best way to do that is community.
Absolutely.
Right? As I say, boo hurt is love, and so. With this shot, you see like these groups, everyone just talking, hanging out, sharing knowledge, joking around, talking about fights, and on these tables is actually each table is a specific team's table. So each of these tables you see is a representative of a team that will be fighting this weekend. For them to have their gear, keep it safe, their snacks or anything that they're going to be having, repair stuff, their little home away from home.
Well, also, and I don't think we have the capability to show you this on the stream, you can see some vendors behind us here, but we have half of this side of the arena full, well, almost the entire side of the arena full of vendors. There's a portable axe throwing cart. Did you see that?
Yeah, there's a portable axe throwing cart. It looks like actually.
Oh, there we go. A great shot of some of the
perfect.
vendors. And we've had a couple of vendors here in the past, but now our vendor coordinator this year has done a wonderful and outstanding job of making sure that the vendor side of this event has continued on. Cell Swords, the popular armor, is here as well. Lots of local folks. I'm not sure if we're going to have a break, but I really want to try that axe throwing.
One of the other vendors that I passed by and I thought was the perfect place to have is there's someone over there selling essential beard, like oils and kits and everything. And one of the things you may recognize from a lot of these fighters is not a lack of facial hair. Everyone is sporting a big beard, some larger, some smaller, but just about every fighter in here has got some sort of big beard. And I feel like I saw it, I cannot imagine more of a perfect location for that vendor right there.
We are quite hirsute. As a sport, yes, absolutely. In addition to that, we have folks here with aromatherapy stuff. We have folks here doing dice for gamers as
That's
well.
right.
Leathercraft vendors doing books and journals and bags and all sorts of interesting stuff here as well. We have in the corner there is, and I'll have to get their names so that we can reference them and thank them for being here, because we're very happy to have all of our vendors here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
If you're watching us on the live stream here in the arena or outside. But they scan you. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, absolutely.
They scan you and they can produce a figure, I don't know if it's movable or not, but at least a statue of you. And if we don't have a time for fighters to go up there in armor,
absolutely. Yeah,
and
that's
get
the
figures,
thing. Yeah,
you're doing it wrong if we don't have time for that.
They from my understanding, and from looking at it, they essentially do a 3D scan, and then do a oh goodness, my mind's blanking. The printer, 3D printer of it, yeah. And then you go back home and you paint it and everything, and it's like I said, what we're talking about with specifically with the Duelists, I think more so, but you have a specificity of their armor and their coat of arms and their style, and we talked about with the plumes and things like that, right? It's a little bit harder to tell when you get to melees because they're donning the team's tabards, but that you're able to show off that individuality when you're at duels. That's a perfect thing. You can go like, oh, here's me, here's little mini me.
Well, if I get to paint it myself, I might wear my armor, get scanned in, and then paint my armor nice instead of kind of.
You can make it as shiny as it's down there. Exactly. Without your grizzled old man wear and tear on your suits of armor.
Right there on your screen, we have some beautiful armor on Isaac, one of our bronze medal competitors for men's polearms. Across from him is Ethan.
Ethan, what looks like they're like a longer pole arm, so reach is definitely going to, and just like that, reach is definitely going to come into play.
Now,
Isaac's going to have to close the gate to get in there.
Isaac has taken some hard shots and then just walked right through them, but that moved him.
Yeah. Another good shot there to the chin.
I don't know that there's a fighter out here that shot would not have made step back. Halved.
Yeah, Isaac having a little bit of a hard time trying to make contact with the head of his weapon.
That might have contacted the head somewhat. Half.
Yeah, Ethan just taking advantage of every time he steps back, he's stepping right back into a shot to the head. Because he has that reach with the top end of that pole arm where he's going right over the edge at the top of Isaac's half and just taking a shot just like that into the same spot.
Ethan seems to be able to block Isaac's shots just by raising his left hand or punching the pole arm halved out just slightly.
I mean, whether he's doing it purposely or not, I mean, the conservation of energy after fight after fight after fight, I'm just going, okay, great. I'm going to sit here, you block, just bop. Yeah, I block, bop, right? And I was really making Isaac do more of the work and wearing himself out.
And this is a different polearm in the hands of Isaac this time as well. This is at least the third polearm we've seen him fight with. The first one was broken. The second one seemed pretty hefty. And this one's a little bit different.
Into the corner cheering him on. Looks like teammates on in the same colors. And we're going into round 2 for our bronze medal fight. Nice
Good
shot there
shot.
to the thigh. Another one to the head. Ethan coming out strong with a lot of energy.
I think Ethan needs to circle to the right, to his right, keeping Isaac in the center if possible.
Yeah, oh, nice push off. Yeah, typically you don't want to be in the corner, but it's hard to say that when, last round it wasn't working out. It wasn't bad for him. It was kind of working out for him. Butter's taking a quick breather. Isaac just can't be letting those blows come in uncontested.
Such a durable fighter, though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, taking that shot for shot and just keeping it coming back at him. I mean, that's just awesome performance with Isaac. He's getting tired of dropping his guard, and that's the end of the fight. And I believe also, into the round. I believe also the end of the fight.
So, in doing a little bit of math when I was in high school doing wrestling, back when rocks were soft and dirt was experimental, it's been a while.
The dawn of man.
So, early on doing a little bit of math, trying to compare the active amount of time that, say, a linebacker would be working during a high school football game compared to a wrestler during a match. I believe the math came out more work on the wrestler's side of things. You start taking a look at other sports out there. MMA is generally a very, very intense and long-held match, lots of effort going on there. But you compare something like this to a lot of these other larger national sports where you have folks to trade in and out with so frequently. You have folks that can give you a break. You have a huge crew behind you to support you before the game, during the game, after the game. And here we've got A winner? Let's
A
see.
decision, and
Ethan.
Ethan coming away with the victory,
A good fight for both of the fighters.
taking bronze medal. I think they're getting fourth. But yeah, and to that point also, maybe you're more of a team sport, and your position isn't the one being affected on the field currently, right? Whether that's soccer, football, wherever else, whereas like, oh, the play's happening over there, I can be right here, be engaged, but not physically, not having to be physically tense at that moment.
And when you talk about wrestlers or boxers or mixed martial artists, obviously tough sports. So it's not a detriment to any of those great competitors. But you've got maybe a 180-pound fighter fighting in 182 pounds of matter.
Yeah.
His body, some gloves, some shorts, and some groin protection. But then here, you've got, especially in the outrance fights later, you've got a 185-pound fighter fighting in 250 pounds of matter.
Yeah, and fighting for their lives, like we said earlier, this is the closest thing you can get to like actually really trying to kill somebody as possible.
Without getting charges.
And hopefully not carded.
Right. So this is our gold medal fight here. Bowmill pushing Zale.
And this is great to see. You see him switching hands, you see him switching stances. Like this is what you see from two good polearm fighters. Just like that, right? He's taking a good shot to the head, and then Bowmill turns around, chokes up on the half. It is more of a punching shot there, and scoring those good quick points. Because you don't need, while you need a deliberate swing, you don't need to cock all the way back and then swing full force in. If you're able to get a deliberate swing, you choke up there, almost get more of a punching motion, it still counts. And we have the end of round one.
What a great round.
And again, this is for our gold medal men's polearm.
All marshals after this fight, please stay on the field. Do not run off.
So I believe after this match, we'll have a little bit of a medaling ceremony for them, and then
I believe we're going to go to a break and then come back at 7 o'clock for the rest of the outrance fights. We had men's lightweight fights earlier.
Yeah, so we, like we said, with this sport skews to the larger end of individuals, right? And so it's there's a smaller pool of smaller guys. So we got that taken care of earlier today, or just a little while ago. We're starting out with round two for men's polearm. Two big boys fighting for a big shiny medal. A good trade of blows there.
Bohumil working the low shots more than I've seen other polearm fighters today.
Yeah, Zale doing pretty good about keeping that head down and blocking it.
That's
Not a great option to dip that neck.
Head movement is good, but it opens up.
Oh, that's
gaps.
That's a nice little method you see right there from Bowmill. He takes the pommel of his weapon there. It opens up just like that right there. It opens up Zale. And he's able to get a strike in as he steps right back. He brings his head forward, and it comes right over the top of him.
Zale was able to capitalize on Bohumil going low that last time.
And what we've seen from some of these other polearm fighters is you just got to be worried about the head of that weapon. With Bowmill right now, you're having to worry about both hands. And with a big shot of the hand, taking advantage of with a couple more shots to the shoulders.
Zale's right hand is hurt.
Yeah, it is. And he's having a hard time gripping that weapon. Marshall coming in, making sure that he's able to continue fighting. And I think that might count as a disarm. Or a possible submission. I think, Bowmill probably just take off his helmet just for a breather.
Well, I don't
Marshall
know.
talking to him. Yeah, they're figuring out what's going on here.
Looks like they're both getting helmets off. Let's see how his hand's doing.
And perfect example of a broad beard right there. Look at it. Broad beard and broad smile. Yeah, they're checking his hand to make sure it's fine.
It's not leaking.
I think Zale's confirming that, hey, it's good. Hand's fine.
That may have been time on the fight.
Yeah, I think Marshall just kind of talked to him, make sure it's like, hey, we want it clean, we want it good. It's legal, just like we said, we want to make sure we're not injuring each other, right? We want to hurt them, but we don't want to injure them. And I think that Marshall will just make sure to clarify, with some of these fighters, like, we know it's legal, we know it's good, it's okay. Let's just make sure, we're all in good sportsmanship here and all in good faith. And that's what we want to see right there. Fighters shaking hands, smiling, bearding. Yeah, I can see he's shaking the hand, his hand hurt. And for gold medal, Bowmill taking about silver medal going to Zale.
Great competition today. Well, today isn't over. We have had some great competition so far today, but we'll be back at 7 o'clock. And we have some wonderful, wonderful outrance fights scheduled later on today. I had a list of it earlier. I think we have at least 20 more outrance fights.
For some of these fighters, like we say, the day's still going. For some of these fighters, the day is just starting.
Yes.
And you look out here in the crowd, and a few of the fighters are now starting to armor up because this is the event they're waiting for. This is what they're going for. And so, I was talking to some of them earlier, and you get kind of jittery, right? You have a whole day of fight, a whole day of waiting for an important fight coming in later that afternoon, that evening. You get butterflies, start getting jittery. You maybe start overthinking stuff. It's hard to maintain that the visualization, that mind frame. Coming in calm, cool, and collected.
Looks like we're about to have the award ceremony for men's polearm. And the women's polearm division as well. Though there was one fight, still have winners.
Still counts.
2024 Carolina Carnage men's polearm, third place, Ethan.
Third place going to Ethan. Bronze medal. Big smile. Zale with the silver. And gold medal from across the sea, from across the ocean, Bowmill. Oh.
So, Celeste
Spencer getting silver, Celeste
taking gold.
getting gold medal.
All right, all audience members and players and all that kind of fun stuff. I think the marshals are being
Larry there with the red sparkly hat.
everyone else. 7 o'clock is when we're starting the outrance competitions. So when you get food or whatever, come on back. But 7 o'clock is when we're starting the outrance fights with all the lists. All right.
And if you couldn't hear what we're saying, is taking a quick break, having the fighters refuel, re-energize for some of those who are fighting again. Make sure everyone's armoring up. We'll take a break, and I think probably the stream will be back between 6:30 and 7, and the fights, our outrance fights, will resume at 7 p.m.
Absolutely. And we'll be back here with you in the broadcast booth for the live stream again. We'll probably pick back up a little bit before 7, just to give a little bit of a recap for folks that may have missed some of the live stream while they were at work or otherwise occupied earlier in the day. So thank you very much. Make sure to share this link out to everyone you know on all your social media, and let's get those viewers up this afternoon.
Absolutely. And find the page, Palmetto Knights, who are graciously hosting the tournament this weekend. Find the page, like the page, Facebook, YouTube. What we said about the growing sport is eyes and ears. The more visibility we have, the better it is for the sport.
Absolutely. And no matter how good the staff here can be, we can be better with more.
Thank you.